crafty friends, it's Sharon Luska from My Crafty Greetings, and you're joining me for Case the Fellow Creator, and I've chosen to case Marla Harris. She's been a great supporter for me in this channel building process, and I gotta tell you, I admire the heck out of how she takes gelatos and turns them into a card. I'm not gonna show you what card it is just yet. You'll see more towards the end, but this is my supreme effort in trying to do some gelato smooshing. And I gotta tell you, I'm also like ink smooshing challenged. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't smoosh for anything. I have probably like 100 sheets of paper that I've tried to ink smoosh on, and they're all embarrassingly ugly. If we had an ugly card challenge, I'd have lots of supplies. Anyways, I loved her technique and how she made this happen, and I fatefully decided to use the back of one of my Cricut mats, and that did not work. So I found myself a little piece of acrylic in our house, which I stole. Hopefully nobody notices. And I decided that I would use that instead, since Marla had a Tim Holtz, I don't know what those mats are, the tempered glass mats. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, this gave me a far superior result. And I work on 5x7 cards, so this is all 5x7 watercolor paper. I was trying to get a nice pretty texture like Marla had gotten with her cards, and yeah. So I'd say the big tip is layers, layers, layers. If you're having a struggle like I had, do some layers. Now, after watching Marla a few times and also watching Mary Palenko, who's the ink smooshing queen of all time, I think I got this figured out. I don't know. What do you think? Little heavy-handed, but this is Marla's example and her yummy pan of gelatos. So the next thing I needed to do was to stamp out some flowers. And the closest thing I had to anything that Marla had used was this penny black stamp, and that's another thing that we have in common. Oh, did I tell you we're both also on Team Tiny? Anyways, I stamped these out, and Marla had used a no-line coloring technique for hers, and I'm not so great at that just yet. So I decided that I would just pick a color closest to the color that I was going to be coloring my flowers. And this is only the second time I'm coloring with Copics. I'm not real good at getting these on screen, but anyways, eventually I'll figure it out. So I have these blues here, and with my tiny selection of colors, I managed to get some together that I thought would work out pretty good. Now, as I was coloring, because I was using a light blue with my darker blue greens, I realized it didn't look very flower-like. And even though I'm putting in my darker highlights as I'm doing it, I'm looking at it thinking, not liking this. So I tried it a little bit differently on the next flower, put a lot less of the pale blue in and a lot more of the blue greens, and I think we got it to work. I didn't have an open leaf design to color in, but I did use my mini mementos and thought that that would be okay for me to use my green markers to shade and add some highlights on top. So the next thing I needed to do was fussy cut. I had to fussy cut all the flowers and fussy cut out the leaves. Now, I also needed one smaller flower to go in the cluster, and I went ahead and cut off a few of the petals that were already colored in on the larger flowers that I had done. And I think they did a pretty good facsimile of that flower as a smaller specimen. The last component that I needed that I didn't have a stamp for was a rosebud, but after close inspection of the flower that I had, I found something that I could fashion into a rosebud. And I colored that up to match the other flowers that I was already using and went ahead and fussy cut that out. Now, I wanted to tell you a few things about Marla. I ended up finding out from watching her videos how she got into card making. It was her good friend Carol, and I guess Carol lives in Las Vegas and is still a good friend to this day. But back in the day when they had small children, Carol had decided to teach the kids how to make cards. When she was doing that, that opened Marla's eyes up to a whole new world of crafting. Marla lives in South Dakota, and just like me, she packs up her craft stuff and travels between two places. That's a girl after my own heart. Now, back to the card. I was going to need a bigger cluster of leaves and decided that I'd take my Momenta and stamp this one out. And after looking at it, there was no way I was going to be fussy cutting that. So I shot it through my scan and cut and decided that I would leave it stuck down to my mat to add some highlights and lowlights while I was coloring. Hopefully I didn't do something wrong. I was trying to be careful not to get color on my mat. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, but oh well, at least I tried. These are Marla's pieces for her card. And this is the truck that Marla's husband gets to play with at work. Can you say amusement park ride? Hello, count me in. After looking at Marla's flowers, I decided mine were too dark. I looked everywhere for a white pencil or my white pen, and no such luck. All I could find was this white galaxy marker. So I added some white over top of my teal to try and lighten it up a bit and make it a little bit more like Marla's flowers. I think by the time I did the second layer, it actually worked out okay. I went ahead and double die cut myself out a nice thick white frame with stitching. I added a good bunch of art glitter glue to the back of that, and hey, that's the glue Marla uses as well. I went ahead and put one of my really ugly stamping blocks on top. I wasn't entirely thrilled with the lack of dimension that my coloring had, so I decided that I would bend in just a little bit of bumps and rumples here and there to make them a little more convincingly flower-like. I think it's time to go and get myself a few more Copic colors to be able to add a little more depth. Oh, and you may have noticed I also added a little bit of yellow Copic in the center. I'm going to start to assemble my card now, and I am peeking over my left there to just try and review the layout that Marla has. That's why I'm pausing here. I'm working hard to get these laid out in a similar layout to Marla's card. I don't know, what do you think? Did I get it close? I know they're totally different cards. The next thing I needed to work on was the sentiment. I took some of my Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock and some teal zeal, and I did myself a die cut with Elizabeth Craft Die's Happy Birthday. I did try and cut this apart just into happy, but it didn't look very good once I did that. So what I thought I'd do is just color it up to match the card and then add a second layer of white behind it to try and give it the same highlight that Marla's card had. It's been a lot of fun casing a card or replicating a card of a crafter that I admire as much as I do Marla. She's one heck of a friend and is a phenomenal crafter. If you want to check her out, you should go ahead and check in my links and see the link for her card and also for her channel. As much as I tried, you can see how differently and beautifully these two cards turned out. It's a lot of fun to take your supplies and see if you can replicate a card of a crafter that you really admire. Don't forget, this is a hop, and if you click the hashtag in my title, it'll take you to a full list of all of the crafters that are casing cards of their favorite card makers. Thanks so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed, I sure would love it if you would. Comment, thumbs up. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.